Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for sticking around for so long. My name is Emil, and for the next 6-7 minutes, I'll be giving you a small sneak peek into our work with developing a microorganism called Nannochloropsis oceanica as a future non-animal source of vitamin D3. So first, a little bit about vitamin D. It is an essential fat-soluble vitamin that comes in two forms, vitamin D2 and D3. And it is involved in a number of processes and functions in our body. Amongst others, it is crucial for our ability to absorb and distribute calcium. And it also plays a supportive role in a number of immune responses. Unfortunately, a lot of us don't get enough vitamin D. In Europe alone, 13% of us are what we call vitamin D deficient, and 40%, almost half, are vitamin D insufficient. And especially vitamin D deficiency is linked to a number of conditions, including increased risk of bone disorders and also an increased risk of infectious diseases. And so it's really an important micronutrient that is important for our health and well-being, but that a lot of us struggle to get enough of. And in the future, as we start to transition towards a more plant-based diet, this will probably become even more challenging. And I'll try to explain you why. So if we take Denmark as an example, during the summer, there's actually not an issue at all, because most of us can produce vitamin D3 or sufficient amounts of vitamin D3 in our skin. But throughout the summer, that process more or less stops, and we rely heavily on getting vitamin D in our diet. And here the most common sources are things like fish and eggs. You can also get vitamin D in the form of vitamin D2 from UV-exposed mushrooms, but that is not a very common dietary source. And then, of course, there are also supplements that I think a lot of us take and are recommended to take here during the winter in Denmark. But here the origin of the products can become an issue as well, because the vast majority of products are based on sheep's wool. So moving forward, if we want to detach our production and intake of vitamin D from animal production, we need to find and develop new sources. And that is exactly what we work with. So we have found and already developed a bit a microorganism called Nannochloropsis oceanica. You can see it here on the photo as a new source of vitamin D3. This is how it can look in the lab when we grow it in small scale. And then what we do is that we grow it for some time, and then we harvest the biomass, dry it, and in the end we get this lovely green powder. And this is rich on a number of things, including proteins and also omega-3 fatty acids. Then a former PhD of ours, Anita, she found out that if we apply UVB light to these cultures while they grow, then we also end up getting vitamin D3 in our final biomass, about half a microgram per gram of powder. The issue with this approach, however, was that it also reduces the microorganism's ability to grow. So we ended up with very little powder in the end. And this leads me to what I have actually been doing as part of my PhD, which is trying to find a new way of applying this UVB treatment. So what I have done is that I grow our cultures without UVB, and then right before harvesting this biomass, I apply a very intense short treatment of UVB light. And I can reveal that this still generates D3, and we don't have this trade-off with loss of biomass productivity. And just to support what I'm saying, I've brought one result slide. And here you can see that in just 30 minutes of this very intense treatment, which you can see a picture of here in the middle, then we get around 0.2 micrograms of D3 per gram of powder. And luckily, nothing in the unexposed control. So the question is this high or low? Well, the recommended daily intake is 10 to 20 micrograms. So if you would have to use this as your only source of vitamin D, you would have to eat 50 to 100 grams of powder. And that is not very realistic. So we are already in the process of developing the concept further by using this biomass as a basis for extracting a vitamin D3 enriched algae oil. And this should be even more concentrated in vitamin D and much more easy to apply in foods and supplements. And with that being said, I'm just going to leave you with this conclusion slide that you can read yourself and then say thank you very much for your attention.